Hello, my name is Rhonda Finn. I'm a senior at Arkansas Tech University, and I'm actually doing my senior project at Ranger Boats today, and I'd like to introduce my stakeholder.
Hello, I'm Sandy Barnhart, Safety Manager at Ranger Boats, and we are happy to have Rhonda here on site today with her presentation. We look forward to possibly learning some processes from her. She was a great previous employee, and we are hoping that this works out well for her. So, also, I'd like to introduce my assistant, Penny Lewis. She'll be also joining.
Hi, I'm Penny Lewis. I'm one of the safety coordinators here at Ranger Boats. We're happy to have Rhonda here and lend a hand with her and be informed and hopefully learn a few things that will help us be better. So let's go, Rhonda.
Okay, thank you, Penny. Let's start by talking about the project background. What we identified was a key problem within Ranger Boats, that being we needed to implement more signage, stop signs, yield signs, and more or less introduce some other avenues that would keep the employees safe here at Ranger. That said, there again, the project purpose is to implement additional signage throughout Ranger Boats. Ranger Boats, just to give you a little bit of background, employs what, Penny, 1,100 people?
1150, something like that.
1,150. So this is a huge operation, very active with employees, moving boats around from one building to the next after each process through the manufacturing process of a boat. So at any rate, I'd like to introduce some things, some ideas to assist Ranger with their safety needs and keeping their employees safe. One of which is what I discovered would be a Stop Work Authority, SWA plan. Essentially what that does is it is geared towards behavior modification in getting employees to be proactive with safety, meaning that rather than it being a compliant issue where they can be reprimanded if they do something wrong in a given work area, they're more participants in the program, whereas they have a stake in what happens in their work area. So at any rate, I'm going to leave with Ms. Barnhart and Penny some literature on a Stop Work Authority program and the compliance issues and how they pertain to OSHA. And then also I would like to discuss further some other things before we get into the survey area, one of which is additional signage. There's some avenues that are cost effective. One could be solar powered versus LED. LED signs are kind of expensive. Just for one sign, they're about $800. But I think for a property this large, a facility, the solar powered signage are huge. They're bright. Trucks that actually drive through their active gate can see them. Employees can see them. So that's an area we're going to look at. We're going to take a look at research methods and how I arrived at some of these choices. I actually did a survey, 2 surveys on Ranger Boat employees, 15, on their lunch breaks. And the method that I used was qualitative, in that I had a small sample just due to time restraints and research efforts. It's very difficult to get people, on board with research. That said, I instituted 2 surveys, one of which had 5 questions. One was open-ended responses, and the other was level of agreement, whether they disagree or agree. And this was all done with face-to-face interactions and with the employees being, of course, unknown to the survey. Some of the questions that I included in my employee survey was whether or not an employee would be interested in participating in a Stop Work Authority training program. I asked some questions as to how important are stop signs, how consistent they were in acknowledging the signage at Ranger when they're working. Do they consider safe driving skills as important? And also how many times they'd been in an accident on the job site, and of course they all answered not at all. Over the next 5 years, do they anticipate taking a driving safety course or, say, a program that the safety department would put together, such as a stop work authority training? The response was not as favorable as I had hoped. 58% were on board with it. However, the remaining responses were all at 100% that they were for driving safely on the property. Questions continue. Here's the results of that again, just to reiterate. It was kind of interesting to see that 53% respondents weren't really one way or the other that interested in taking a stop work authority training course. And again, this is something that the safety department here at Ranger could look into. Again, it's all about behavior modification and getting employees on board with being mindful of their work environment. And if it's not a compliance issue where they feel more like they're partaking in the whole process of safety, they're more likely to take a training class. Anyway, there's the overall survey results. And here is a little pie chart. There's some other areas that we looked at. Without having photos to clearly explain the layout of Ranger, there are two main gates, a south gate and a north gate. South gate being their more active gate. This is the heaviest traveled area where trucks are coming in to make deliveries. Employees are coming through that gate to get to work. A lot of action on that gate. So at one point, what was asked of me was to define what I thought could improve the flow of traffic, and my answer was to expand the entire gate completely and create another lane. When I surveyed the employees, you can see here the black part being they agreed that gate area is active. It's a problem on certain given days when you have trucks getting in to make deliveries and you have people who are on a tight timeline. They do have to punch in a clock to get out and to get back in, so that would make that easier if that gate area was expanded. Also, this red area, you'll see the signs. There needs to be more visible signs in certain specific areas. And again, just to be mindful of cost, I'm a firm believer in that. And I think that the solar stop signs would work well, since there's so many that would be needed in a property this large. And here is the no answer area. 20% of the participants had no answer, no response one way or the other, whether the gate was important, the stop signs were important. The proposed solution, again, I highly emphasize to address the needs for safety concerning stopping and certain busy work areas, is to implement a stop work authority SWA program, which actually would be the managers of each department would be responsible, but the safety department would be the initiator, which is a very proactive position to take. And I think with employee involvement, it would be really positive and potentially eliminate the risk of accidents, especially with the guys out there who are on forklifts moving boats. Again, purchase larger signage. Yield signs are important because there needs to be a staging area before a stop sign, especially if there's something really important going on in that area. That, for example, men working, or say if there's construction going on, just kind of gives employees heads up as to what's happening in that area. And again, widen the entrance lane at the south gate. Solution feasibility. This is all very achievable without an exuberant amount of cost overhead, which wouldn't be too much of a burden with operation cost. And there again, implement the Stop Work Authority program, the solar stoplights that are visibly, highly visible. They are very effective, easy to install, simple to use. They work up to 5 to 7 days after one charge. And they're actually operational 24 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And there again, widen the entrance lane to the south gate. Solution costs, we covered that. I did a little bit of research on that, but there again, it just depends on the amount of signs that we're talking about. Back to the training materials to create this program, Stop Work Authority, probably about $300 to $500, and that would be per department. And I mentioned this per manager with copied material that could be given to employees. These LED stop signs are actually remarkable. However, they're not really cost effective. In a sense, throughout the property, maybe one or two, and that would be positioned at the main gates. And they average between $300 to $800 per sign. So I think just based on the need and the number of signs, overall, based on my experience working at Ranger and what I'm aware exists here, is about $2,500. And in that, this is a manufacturing operations. They're boat builders. There's a lot of key employees here that could be instrumental and involved in actually assisting Ranger with the expansion of the gate. And I think the only expenditure there would probably be concrete. I guesstimate that the length of the lane to be expanded is about 100 yards. So I would say this is based on an assumption is around $6,000. The urgency. I think right now the most important thing is to evaluate the need for signs, how many signs are needed, the key areas where it's important. So that would be now, within 3 months, look into the Stop Work Authority SWA program. And then later on down the road, I would say 6 months to a year, expansion of the south gate, the lane. And that's just really based on frequency and whether or not Ranger goes into more expansion, has more volume, more business, more dealers coming through that gate, more truck traffic. So those all can be monitored. And I think that pretty much covers everything. Do you all have any questions for me?
No, you did an excellent job.
Okay, I appreciate you so much, Sandy. And Penny, thank you for putting up with my technology here. And it's been a pleasure presenting my presentation. And
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.